we now have Justin's reply, and a lot of people are still trying to figure out this 47.1 law. I know you've even looked more into it. It's new, but all of that relevant info that Justin's put out and the evidence and the context and her using sexy, et cetera, all can come to play. I mean, we have now evidence now where Ryan Reynolds is seemingly admits that his 7-year-old daughter was cast as kid pool. So here it is, guys.
Poor guy.
Our fight isn't with you.
When I want your opinion, I'll take Wolverine's dick out of your mouth.
That's kid.
Guiltily, that is my daughter, Inez.
I'm so sorry we have to admit that.
Saying, suck Wolverine's D off. And then the director's laughing. Yeah, she didn't even really want to do it, and we forced her to do it, and there were 400 versions of it. Many of us are watching that going like, my God, that's horrific. But sexy was the line for Blake.
Imagine everything you thought you knew about Blake Lively's lawsuit against Justin Baldoni being completely wrong. The text messages, legal filings, and behind-the-scenes details tell a much different story than what we've heard in the media. In this documentary, we'll reveal the shocking truth behind this legal battle that has Hollywood buzzing. You'll see why employment lawyers believe Baldoni might actually have the stronger case. Plus, there's the surprising revelation: Blake's attendance at 7 Taylor Swift concerts while supposedly sick on set. This could be the key evidence that changes everything.
All that relevant info that Justin's put out and the evidence and the context and her using sexy, et cetera, all can come to play. I mean, we have now evidence now where Ryan Reynolds is seemingly admits that his 7-year-old daughter was cast as kid pool, saying, suck Wolverine's D off. And then the director's laughing. Yeah, she didn't even really want to do it, and we forced her to do it, and there were 400 versions of it. Many of us are watching that going like, my God, that's horrific. But sexy was the line for Blake. Can all of that come into play, and do you think it will?
I don't think it'll come into play at trial. I think there's not enough of a connection between what Blake and Baldoni and Blake were doing. I don't think it's enough of a connection versus what ended up being decided on another film between 2 other people, even though one of them is kind of related. I think the judge will say that's too prejudicial because the reaction you and I just got, right? And then if the jury hears that, well, what does that really have to do with what happened between Baldoni and Lively? That's my opinion. Judges are very guarded with regards to things that are too emotional for people to forget what they're really supposed to be concentrating on.
Fair enough. But her saying sexy to Justin earlier, absolutely connected and relatable.
Yeah, for sure.
Giving that's what's so weird, because even as Dina was saying it, I do feel like a set on a movie is a different employment. It's like, it's a different work. Like, I've been there. I worked on a set of a Playboy TV show as the caterer way back, and it was clear the rules were different on that show than others, right? Because there's people walking around without any clothing and stuff. Like, this industry is different than, say, a bank. So will the judge and jury be able to factor that into this claim?
Yes, if the lawyers bring out that narrative. Also, another thing, and I don't mean to open up this can of worms, but there's a lot of, if things are related to what's called the creative process. For instance, a comedian in a writer's room saying things that are offensive, but it's part of the creative process for the show, that is actually protected speech under the First Amendment, but they haven't even got here yet.
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds might be using their own children as pawns in Hollywood's ruthless power play. Behind their perfect public image lies a disturbing pattern of manipulation. Sources close to productions reveal how the couple has used their children as excuses to control work schedules, even when it wasn't necessary. A shocking text exchange between Ryan Reynolds and Justin Baldoni shows just how calculated this strategy is. When Baldoni reached out with a friendly message, Reynolds immediately mentioned his children, subtly hinting at family concerns and positioning himself as the concerned father. Industry insiders say this was textbook manipulation to get schedule changes in their favor. This tactic extended beyond Reynolds. Crew members, many on tight budgets, had to scramble when schedules shifted to accommodate the couple's personal plans. Unlike most working parents, Reynolds and Lively have the means to arrange top-tier childcare. Yet they chose to manipulate their schedules, placing their personal needs above professional obligations. This calculated use of family emergencies has been reported multiple times, even when Reynolds was spotted at industry events or enjoying leisure activities instead of attending to family matters.
The Nice Pool revelations that sort of confirm his hatred of Nice Pool and everything else. This is the true shocker right here. So here it is, guys.
Poor guy.
Our fight isn't with
Hey,
you.
when I want your opinion, I'll take Wolverine's dick out of your mouth.
That's kid.
Guiltily, that is my daughter,
I'm
Inez.
so sorry we have to admit that.
And
You didn't have to admit it. You didn't have to admit it, for one. You could have just kept that a secret, which I probably would have done, and let that come out if the kid wants to admit it later, right? Like, for one, you didn't have to admit it, but he gleefully is about to admit it, and it's worse.
I am father of the year over here for allowing her to say such language, which, to her credit, she really didn't want to say. And then came back later and said, I want to say it now, when I started looking at other people to play
Yeah,
it.
but Ryan,
Some other kid's gonna take your part, Inez. You sure you don't want to do Daddy's disgusting line?
to our discredit, we made Nezzy do, I'm not shitting you, 70 to 500 versions of that line.
Yeah, I'm going to pay for that later.
Blake Lively there as Lady.
Yes, you are.
Dude, but Justin Baldoni's the problem. But a well-connected source close to Taylor tells TMZ Taylor came to Blake's apartment, and at the time Blake told her to, not knowing anyone else would be there. In other words, Taylor had no idea there'd be a meeting going on. And I wonder if Taylor knows all this editing nonsense of Blake refusing to let Justin make his movie and I'm not going to give you Taylor's song. I'm not going to give you Taylor's song. You mean girl bully. If this is real, Blake Lively, you deserve all of this. This is a reckoning she needs to hear. This isn't bullying. This isn't harassment. This is accountability, girl.
As if those family emergencies weren't enough, Blake Lively's sudden illnesses during filming raise even more eyebrows. Text messages from investigator Elric expose a shocking truth. Lively wasn't sick at all. On the day she called in, too sick to work, in Las Vegas, she was actually spotted at Taylor Swift's Era Tour, dancing and looking healthy. This wasn't a one-time occurrence. Lively attended 7 Swift concerts during the filming period, each time causing major disruptions on set. Crew members, from camera operators to makeup artists, relied on steady schedules to support their families. When Lively missed work, they were left in limbo, with thousands of dollars wasted on unused equipment and unused locations. Despite claiming she needed childcare in Las Vegas, Lively, with a net worth in the tens of millions, could easily afford childcare solutions. Instead, she prioritized her personal enjoyment over her professional commitments, leaving her colleagues to bear the consequences.
This was one of those clips that just really shows the manipulation behind Blake. Not only did she steal this movie from Justin in post, which is clear, and took this rough cut, she went to stream it at this book con, and it seems like, judging by this clip, you tell me, even Sony wasn't involved in this. Listen to this.
Brandon hasn't seen it, so we're going to sit through it.
We just manifested that.
But and just know, it's literally, this is not a bit. It's literally not done. So to be honest, what really happened is we were like, we're going to show the movie, and the studio was like, no, you're going to show 20 minutes. So we're like, no, we're going to show the movie. And they're like, it's not done. And I was like, they don't fucking care. Let's just show them the movie.
Because you're going to go again, aren't you? You're going to go watch it in theaters too.
I don't know. Don't you guys care that the movie be finished and that Justin's take be finished? Look at this. Colleen, Brandon, Blake. Where's Justin? Why was Justin not only she's not allowed to be in any of these interviews, but then she's out there stealing hard drives. That's what she did here to go spread the word on this movie.
Twice.
And they were like, it's true. They were like, if everything's not perfect and it's not done, and what if we're going to change things? I was like, these are the people who authored the success of the book. You guys are what matter. And you guys seeing the movie is so important to us. So we're so excited to show you guys.
You brought us so many gifts.
Way to take over, Blake. Literally just took it from him. This movie, this book, you mean, that Justin found first, that Colleen told him to star in, that he oversaw with his production company for all this time, and you just took it over.
Today.
We did. I know.
Also,
last one, we're going out with a bang. But honestly, you guys, y'all are the only audience in the world that's going to see this cut. It is an early cut.
I'm so fascinated to know which cut this was. Was this Blake's cut? Was anybody in this crowd that saw this cut, can you please reach out to me, hit me up, or Kim on socials, or you can reach out popcornplanet@gmail. Please don't spam me with other news links. I get plenty of those. But if you're an insider with info, you can hit me up, please.
Now, Blake Lively faces actual evidence. Text messages submitted by Justin Baldoni's legal team reveal that after Lively's alleged harassment incidents, she continued to send friendly messages to Baldoni. These text exchanges contradict her claims of discomfort and harassment. Lively even flirted with Baldoni after the events she now describes as traumatic. Employment lawyer Ron Zambrano, following the case, suggests Lively may be misusing Me Too-era protections for hidden motives. Baldoni's legal team is using California's Civil Code Section 47.1, which shields individuals from defamation when there is a reasonable basis for their claims. Baldoni's team argues Lively's allegations were exaggerated or fabricated, possibly as part of a strategy to control the film's narrative and editing process. Baldoni's defense paints a completely different picture of events. The legal filings even mention that Lively's alleged co-conspirators, like Ryan Reynolds, may not be protected under this law. This could be a crucial part of Baldoni's counterattack, showing that Lively's motives weren't about harassment, but about manipulating the production and controlling the story.
Dude, but Justin Baldoni's the problem. It's like I can't get over the hypocrisy. How do you react? You have kids. I have kids. Look, sometimes they say a bad word. It is what it is. We laugh. But I would never want my kids to be talking about sucking some C word of Wolverines in a movie at that age. I do everything I can to protect them from that range of topics, because you want to keep their innocence as long as you can, right? Would you let your kid do that?
The more disgusting part of it is because Ryan was not willing to be as fully honest as Sean Levy was, because Ryan goes, to her credit, she didn't want to do it, but then he snitches on himself and says, I pretty much told her I'm going to give your role to somebody. She said, Daddy, I'll do it. Then Sean Levy says, oh, to our discredit, we made her rehearse that line 70 to 500 is probably an exaggeration. One time is too much. 70 times is disgusting. And it's disgusting.
Ryan Reynolds' public image as the ideal family man is beginning to unravel, as Baldoni presents undeniable evidence casting doubt on his character. A troubling new scandal has surfaced about Reynolds involving his own child. During the production of Deadpool, Reynolds made a shocking decision, casting his own daughter to deliver a sexually explicit line about Wolverine in an R-rated film. Even more disturbing, Reynolds reportedly encouraged his daughter to repeatedly rehearse the line, despite her discomfort. The director, Sean Levy, called the situation disgusting, but Reynolds insisted his daughter keep going. This revelation contradicts the carefully crafted image Reynolds has built as a protective father. Behind the scenes, he used his own child for career gain. This raises serious questions about his ethical standards. The hypocrisy is stark, especially given how Reynolds markets himself as the perfect dad, while using his daughter in this way for professional reasons. This scandal ties into the broader legal battle with Baldoni, where Reynolds and Lively's calculated manipulation tactics are beginning to surface. If Reynolds is willing to exploit his own child for personal gain, what other unethical tactics might he and Lively employ to protect their Hollywood status?
Now have Justin's reply, and I know a lot of people are still trying to figure out this 47.1 law. I know you've even looked more into it. It's new.
The reaction is because of how detailed Baldoni's lawsuit with his own versions and the full text message threads and the full transcript of what was going on and these stills, I don't think she has a chance. What was very well argued by Baldoni's attorneys is that there has to be a showing of malice and that now it's going to go back to her, to Lively. Lively had a reasonable basis for her claim in the first place. That's one. Two, it has to be on the face of his complaint. And what that means is that the judge reading the complaint in this motion has to assume everything that's in it and all those many, many, many pages is true. And then he makes a ruling. So what the judge has to read is go, okay, every single thing, these text messages, these allegations are true. The judge would have to make a determination that somehow she had a good faith, reasonable basis, and I don't think he can do that.
So is Brian's sort of quote legit? Like, do you think this is a massive threat to others? Like, is she trying to play this law, this Me Too law, which we're going to go through more depth, to like actually try and get her way? Do you agree with his urgency?
Yes, I believe she is misusing it, let's call it, in order for a underlying agenda and a fight that she picked that probably she regrets picking.
Behind the unraveling image of the Reynolds-Lively power couple lies a Hollywood hit job aimed at Justin Baldoni. Just as Baldoni's career was taking off with projects like 5 Feet Apart, Blake Lively's allegations seemed suspiciously timed. As Baldoni was lining up bigger projects, the accusations emerged, threatening to derail his promising career. Baldoni's legal team has pointed out how these allegations, made just as Baldoni was gaining significant momentum, could be seen as an attempt to damage his professional standing. By leveraging their influence, Lively and Reynolds didn't just target Baldoni directly. They created a ripple effect across the industry. Baldoni found himself labeled difficult, which affected his future prospects. Meetings were canceled and projects were put on hold. The evidence Baldoni's team has gathered, including text messages and transcripts, significantly strengthens his defense. While Lively's statements may be protected under California law, Reynolds doesn't have the same legal shield, which could expose him to legal consequences. Text messages between Reynolds and Baldoni reveal how Reynolds manipulated production schedules, using his children as an excuse to gain power over the filming process. This case is shaping up to be a textbook example of how Hollywood royalty can destroy rising talent. The legal filing argues that Lively's lawsuit is part of a calculated move to use her Hollywood status to crush Baldoni's reputation. It's a classic power play, where celebrity status and social media influence become weapons to ruin someone's career.
Baldoni's alleged to have done is not like one super serious, like the boob grab, right? It's not that. It's these kind of like nefarious things, which shouldn't happen in the workplace, but they have to happen over a course of time to meet the legal standard. Now, once this underlying story kind of comes up, her motivations for bringing these quote unquote unlawful things during those stories of them trying to take over the film now give context to his counterclaim. And I believe that it is a huge deal for the judge to see in order for the judge to make a determination. Now, what is very interesting and most people don't kind of understand is that the judges at this stage where they're just like, well, I'm just looking at your guys' complaints. The judge can't really make a credibility finding. He has to assume what is in the complaint is true. So that is why Baldoni's attorneys are like, this doesn't have a shot because of how detailed the complaint by Baldoni is. The judge cannot make an opposite finding because he has to, or she has to make an assumption that everything in that very well-detailed complaint is true, and it just can't happen for Lively the way she wants to.
So this 47.1, I want to go back to this communications made with, as stated in civil section 47.1, without communications made without malice. Further provide that this section shall only apply to an individual that has or at any time had reasonable basis to file a complaint of SAH discrimination. These requirements that the communications be made without malice and without reasonable basis in fact, are why Lively's arguments fall flat. And as alleged in the FAC, Lively fabricated her allegations of SH either with wholesale or by exaggerated benign and not harassing interactions in a concerted malicious effort to seize control of the film and later restore her reputation after a well-publicized series of marketing missteps that sullied her reputation. What's also interesting is it does feel like the first time they're also even saying, yeah, now they hijacked the film and the franchise. They really are finally, it does feel like bringing all their things together here to reiterate like, well, yeah, these, because you've said it before, it's not harassment if it's just one of those claims, right? It has to be all of them under the same umbrella is what makes it more of that harassment claim. So do you agree with what they're saying here? Or do they have a better shot because of the attempted, effort to seize control of the film?
As this legal battle continues, it's clear that the stakes are high. Legal experts believe the outcome of this case could set a precedent for future Me Too claims in the entertainment industry. The judge's ruling could clarify where free speech ends and defamation begins, especially when powerful celebrities are involved. This case highlights the dangers of challenging Hollywood's elite, showing the real-world consequences of speaking out against the industry's most influential figures. If Baldoni's case succeeds in exposing the dark side of celebrity influence, it could mark a turning point in how the industry handles allegations and holds stars accountable.